As we all know, part of the process of becoming more aware and recognizing the is to face the personal self and creation, to be aware of everything that makes up the personal self created consciousness, its agreements, attachments, to be aware of everything we are deciding through it in every new nowness moment, its thoughts and emotions, to ensure we are objective to these ideas, to put them where they belong, as illusionary phenomena creating ideas of the created self, and not to decide upon them and step into the illusory bubbles of creational reality that they will effect if we do incorporate them and cling to them. And so, assuming we decide to do this, the real side always reflects our intent and what we choose to be and see, and so we very often will have real side experiences of an agreement, attachment, tapline releasing nature, in all the various forms these may take, if our intent is to release the taplines that bind us in creation, demonstrated as everything from real guides blowing up buildings that represent these agreements, to the slaying of monsters that are these agreements made manifest as beasts and creatures. Always we have to decide this, as the decider of our experience, and any assistance by the guides in regards to tapline removal can only be so with respect to the free will decision and agreement of the individual. This real side experience was another along these lines. It was a night of real side agreement removing. I would find myself in my house, and I was delving into all the nooks and crannies, the dark recesses and storage areas, for the personal self is recreated as a house on the real side, and all the attachments, agreements, and taplines that make up the created consciousness will be recreated also in our real side personal self homes. Like all houses, there is a plenty of capacity for storage, from attics to basements to garages and spare unused bedrooms. In our real side houses that represent our personal selves, these various storage areas will be full of agreement clutter, going back as far as when our created consciousness first was formed. We also will have our back gardens of our real side houses, which represent the subconscious, for all agreements other than those we are conscious of in this lifetime. Everything from our past lifetimes will be stored in our causal memory bodies and represent agreement binding taplines that, until identified and released, will hold us to creation, as we are snared in the cause and effect of them, as is the design of the simulators. And so the great vastness of our agreements are subconscious, that which we are unconscious of, and with a lack of understanding of how cause and effect operates in creation, most are unaware how every thought, decision, want, and desire, every idea, is a cause and effect binding anchor that keeps us in the created simulation also. And so we can have all kinds of clutter which represents these idea agreements, stored and stashed all over our real side houses. We can even have individuals hiding in our attics, or wherever else they might be lurking, representing the emotional attachments and agreements we have with these characters. As an example, Dwayne spoke of an experience where Harry and Joni were hiding upstairs in the closet in an individual's real side house, and in came the guides, dressed as cops, to remove them. And so my house here seemed far larger than the physical level version of it, for yes, it required this extra capacity for the storage of idea clutter. It rather looked like the sort of house you might see where someone referred to as a hoarder fills it top to bottom with endless, assorted rubbish. Well, no problem. As I went about gathering up all this junk and dumping it in one place for ease of extraction, for we not only are constantly removing old taplines, but we often must spring clean our personal selves of any recent agreements, ideas, and attitudes we may have taken on, incorporated, and decided upon. A constant real side maintenance of our recreated personal self representing houses. Occasionally, I would encounter random individuals who represented attachments lurking in some of the hidden areas of my real side house, and so I would usher them out, and to stand with the rest of the trash piles I was gathering in one place in my house. Most of these individuals just kind of faded away, as though my identifying them and deciding their release was enough to have them ousted from my personal self-house. There were also a number of computers along some of the long, winding corridors that featured in the subconscious parts of my personal self-house, and I found that some individuals I came across were in the process of stealing them, almost as though these individuals, yes, had been discovered and ousted, but up until now had made themselves at home in my subconscious, and using these computers almost as though to feed information to my personal self on a subconscious level, demonstrating almost like a deep-rooted and perpetuated agreement that continually went on unseen, that I was unconscious of, and on discovery of these characters, it's as though they wanted to take these computers with them, that they could still influence me through them as they were ejected from my personal self-house. a tenebrous connection maintained. For even as we remove these tapline agreements, the reference memory of the relationships are retained in the causal body, but we now simply do not agree and decide on it any more. And so these individuals would always potentially be able to worm their way back in at some future time if we allowed the acceptance and agreement of the idea that their relationship represents, almost as though if I ousted them but allowed them to take the computer with them, a means of tenebrous connection, it would be akin to a tiny part of myself still clinging to the relationship attachment. Nothing could demonstrate then my intent that this would not be so more than preventing them from taking these computers, dispelling the individuals from my house, then chucking these computers in with the rest of the clutter that I had accumulated. I had chosen the garage to place all the idea debris within, as it opened up to the street beyond, and satisfied with my real side personal self-agreement clearing, I opened up the garage door and pushed all the idea restricting junk into the street. For yes, all these ideas remain as references in our created consciousness. We don't just eliminate them from existence, but removed from the subconscious and unconscious parts of my personal self, including the lurking people, I am fully conscious of these ideas, and they are expelled beyond my personal self-house. Yes, they are still there in the street, and can be examined and picked up at any time. But I am no longer the effects of them, a decision very apparent by virtue of how I have swept these idea agreements into the street beyond my personal self-house. I no longer wish to cling onto and retain them, and lock myself into the limiting creational experience they will cause.
Thanks, Kevin. That was really good. Talking about and experiencing the personal self and how we create these personal selves. And look how many we've created all through the millions of lifetimes we've been here, and all the things they have created, the attitudes and all the different agreements and attachments. I mean, it's a huge. You'd have to have you just probably couldn't push them out in the street. You'd have to have a bunch of dump trucks come continually for a long time to get them all out. But they're just something we created and that we have to get through, and manage to see our real awareness. And you explained it very well. Like you find it, how it works and how the process is or can be, and how what we have to deal with here in creation with what we created here with the personal self. And it's very good.